I love that sound. It's like an orchestra conductor calling for attention from his army of musicians. Unless you live under a rock, you have probably been to the movie theater within the last couple of years, maybe, I don't know, time is hard right now, and seen Pixar's new short, Bao, a tug at the heartstrings, feel-good story about an Asian mother and her family that ultimately teaches you the lesson, if you can't control your kids, then eat them.
That's not what it was about.
Shut up! I'm Chinese, I would know! Regardless of what the actual moral of the story may be, these bao are actually a really common item eaten in many Asian families, and so I'm gonna show you how to make them at home in not the most sober fashion. It's gonna be great, I promise. Here's what you're gonna need. We're gonna start with the ingredients for the flour bun. Now over here we have, well, an assortment of things that will make Charlie Sheen proud. 2 cups of flour, 1 cup of cornstarch, 5 tablespoons of sugar. You can't really see these because, you know, they're just indiscriminate white powders. I could be cooking with cocaine. Active dry yeast, 3/4 of a cup of warm water, oil, and a bowl. You're gonna take about a teaspoon of dry yeast, splash it in there, take your warm water, dump it in. This activates the yeast. Those of you with more scientifically minded minds probably know what that means more than I do. So we're just gonna let this sit here for, I don't know, 5 minutes. Is it ready yet? Take your flour, dump it in. Oh God, flour's everywhere. Cornstarch, same thing. Add in your oil as well. Take a spatula, fold it in on itself. If you had, say, a KitchenAid stand mixer that your girlfriend happened to buy herself for Christmas, you know, you could use that. And if you hate yourself, then you could do it this way and knead it by hand. So we'll see which one I'm feeling in about 5 minutes. Thank goodness for technology. Once your ball of dough starts to become, well, a ball of dough, nice and smooth, take aforementioned bowl, wash aforementioned bowl first, drop your dough in there, get some paper towel, get them nice and moist, cover it somehow with, come on, seriously? Just cover it somehow with a damp cloth. Okay, great, then let it sit here for 2 hours. What? Well, I guess you could spend the next 2 hours goofing around and doing absolutely nothing, or you could prepare what's going in the rest of this meal. This is some wonderfully delicious looking Char Siu Pork that I have marinated since yesterday. If you want to learn how to make these little delicious slices of marinated heaven, then you just need to go to this video, wherever it is, I'll put it up somewhere. And if you're on Facebook, well, tough titties. All right, the pork is here, and it's very hot, and I should not be trusted to handle this task. Okay, you're going to want to cut them down to much smaller pieces, about this big. Do that with however much pork you're gonna be using. Your final product should look, should look a little something like this. Now, if you couldn't tell from before, it's still kind of white on the outside, except for one little edge right there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure that all of this is coated. It's nice and saucy. It's freaking delicious, man. Skillet on about medium-high heat or so. Dump the pork in there. In this bowl right here, tablespoon of sugar, tablespoon of soy sauce, a tablespoon of dark soy sauce. Wasn't opened. Okay. Are you kidding me? I don't have time for this. 2 teaspoons sesame oil, tablespoon or so of oyster sauce. We'll get there in a second. That's a tablespoon, right? Stir this mixture up a little bit. I'm combining them beforehand so that I'm not adding ingredients one by one and then having the rest of them be burnt. See that? Giving some nice color. Now we want this to be a little thicker, so we're gonna add some, well, we're not gonna add this, but I'm just gonna drink it. You're definitely gonna wanna use the word bowl for this. 1/2 cup of chicken stock with about a teaspoon of cornstarch. Dissolve the cornstarch and then dump it in. Wasn't dissolved fully, but you know what, sue me. Let that sit there until it bubbles. See that? Definitely starting to thicken. That's definitely a little much soy sauce. Well, soy sauce flavor, not enough sweetness. I'm gonna add a little bit more sugar and then just turn it off and we're gonna work with the rest of it. It's nice and thick. I've added the sugar and or other adjustments that I needed. And I'm gonna just turn the heat off and leave that there. Okay, it's been 2 hours. It's time to reveal our dough. which has greatly increased in size. Take a little bit of flour for your work surface. Take your dough out. Yeah. Now we are going to try the method that the director of Bao's mom used. So you make a hole in the middle of this, and then you stretch it out like that, making this big, long, thick ring of dough. What are you thinking? We are going to take a piece off. We'll start with a piece this big, and then we'll see where it is in terms of actual size. So, get a Chinese mother punishment tool. We're gonna just roll it out a little bit like this, and then something like this, where it's nice and thin, especially around the very edges of it. Take a nice little dollop of your filling. You're going to take the edges of this, hold it out, fold it in. Hold it out, fold it in. Until you get to... How about a thicker one? Flatten, flatten. Maybe not as thin as before. Once I reach to about like this point, where it, isn't paper thin, but still has some slenderness to it, drop some filling, about like a tablespoonful just to start off with. Take an end, up like this. Take your other finger and fold, make a little S shape into your other finger. That will make the pleats, yeah? And then you just keep, extend, fold it into an S shape. Extend, fold it into an S shape. All around like that. That is the best that my drunk ass could do at this point in time. Ta-da! They're done. And now the only thing that remains is to cook them. So grab your Cleveland steamer and head this way to the stove, if your stove isn't located relative to my kitchen. Let's just go. To do this, obviously, you're going to need a pot of some sort. Take your steaming device. It could be metal, bamboo, wood, Boston prayers, whatever. Take some parchment paper, and you're gonna rip off about, however big your bao are. That big of a size of parchment paper. That's not big enough. Close enough. Take said parchment paper, put said bao on there, and then place it into the steamer. Oh no. So when I put this in, I'm basically putting parchment paper in between all of the bao. Now, if you have, a bigger steamer, or you have a tea towel or something like that, that could possibly work better. But if you're me and all you have is parchment paper and apparently a demented stock pot, then you make do. Now, after you've fully loaded it, put the lid on, and basically when it comes to boil, let it boil for 15 minutes. Stop moving! And time's up. Ow, hot. They look nice and ready in there, probably. So let's go peel one apart and find out. Let's give this a try, shall we? If you like the video, like, share, follow, blah, 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 whatever. You know what to do at this point. It's not the prettiest of bao, but there's a life lesson to be learned here, because even if you're not the most beautiful on the outside, it's really what's on the inside that makes you delicious. Cheers. The outside bun is possibly the softest bread that I have ever tasted or made. Airy and fluffy. It's a perfect texture of the inside. The taste is perfect. I love them. They're not the prettiest, but you know what? At the end of the day, they all go down the same hole. So, that should be a life model for someone. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you have any ideas on what you want me to make, leave them in the comments below, blah, blah, blah. See you next time. Bye. A heartstring tugging story about a kid and what are you looking at? Now I'm self-conscious.
You're not cooperating.